the Hotel Sauganash. Much of those original Chicago settlers gathered together and signed a charter to officially incorporate Chicago into the town. Standing upright. Now, if I don't mention it, I could ask just an old railroad bridge. It's no longer used. So to keep it up right here, it is still fully functional. Just keep it up like this out of convenience sake. And it's a really popular spot for wedding photos. Not sure why. And off to the left, a bit in front of us, there's that pink structure standing there. That's the old Fulton House, an old cold storage warehouse done by Frank Abbott in 1908. Of course, being a cold storage warehouse does not have any windows or balconies that you see today. The building has been renovated by Harry Weese and Associates. Renovations were complete in 1981. Harry Weese said getting involved with the Fulton House was the biggest mistake of his career. He would have to wait an entire year just for the building to thaw out. And not to mention punching all the deep holes in the building's facade to make all the windows and balconies you see in it today. If you look into those balconies, you can see just how thick those walls actually are. And all those walls were stuffed with horsehair. That means that the insulation in the early 1900s probably smelling pretty awful today. But Harry Weese would go on to redeem his reputation, actually building these river cottages right next door here. I noticed a somewhat nautical theme to the river cottages, spiraling staircases, some circular porthole-like windows. I like to mention the very triangular river cottages, a whole bunch of triangles flying out here. And I mentioned it because it seems to me that Harry Weese was obsessed with the triangle. Most of his buildings managed to incorporate triangles into them somehow, or they are triangles in themselves. I like to say that he was geometrically excellent. And we'll see two more examples of this in the river today. For now, back off to the right, we have this East Bank Club. This is done in the 1970s and represents a very old-school way of doing things here on the river. You notice it just sort of has its back turned towards us. Not really paying any attention to the river, just ignoring it at all costs. Now, it wasn't until recently they put all the trees and flower pots out back here. Now trying to embrace the river. Right across the way, you have the very new school way of doing things. There's the Kinsey Park development. You notice that these buildings are set off the riverfront to make for a nice riverfront walkway for pedestrians as well as canines to occasionally enjoy them. But the reason people used to build like this East Bank Club did is because this Chicago River has been hopelessly polluted throughout the years. One of the most abused waterways in human history, actually. And it wasn't until recently we started cleaning up the river here. But the story goes all the way back to the 1850s, back when this big, bustling port city had a lot of barges and schooners running up and down the river here. They were dumping their oil, as well as who knows what else in the river. And Chicago was known as the meat-packing industry capital to the world, and we were dumping those dead carcasses into the Chicago River. And if that wasn't bad enough, Chicago also had all of our city's sewer lines running right here into the Chicago River. So we were dumping all of our raw sewage into the river here. Now, this wouldn't have been too big of a problem, except for the fact that the Chicago River once flowed into Lake Michigan, which was, still is, our city's source of drinking water. As you can imagine, poisoning your source of drinking water is not a very good idea. Now, a lot of outbreaks of cholera, typhoid, dysentery, other waterborne illnesses. That's when Chicagoans realized we needed to clean up our city's source of drinking water. Now, the obvious solution might have been to stop throwing stuff into the river. But that didn't occur to anybody. What they thought is if we just put water cribs about 2 miles off the shore of Lake Michigan, and getting our water there being further out, it would be cleaner. Well, apparently it wasn't. So that's when this water reclamation district came into the picture. Remember Centennial Fountain? At the beginning of the tour, remembering that water reclamation district. They were founded in 1889, and mainly just to come up with a solution to this whole drinking water problem we have here. And they did come up with a pretty good idea. They thought, why not just reverse the entire flow of this Chicago River? They see that way, we keep dumping all of our garbage and all of our sewage into the river here, and it would flow south. You know, down the Des Plaines, down the Illinois, and down the Mississippi River, and St. Louis could deal with it. This is actually what we did. And in 1900, the Shippen Sanitary Canal was complete. Now, the basic idea is that you dredge up so much land from the south branch of the river that it's now lower than this north and the main branch, using Newton's great force of gravity to pull the river the opposite direction. This was a huge land dredging effort. I actually bigger than the digging up the Panama Canal. Full lot of land dredged out the south branch of the river there. But it was a big success. To this day, the river still flows the opposite direction, and our city's source of drinking water was saved. But surprisingly enough, the people of St. Louis were not too thrilled. They actually filed a lawsuit against the city of Chicago. Now, maybe most surprising is that Chicago would go on to win that lawsuit. Mainly due to a University of Illinois chemistry professor said that when the sun came out, it was shining down on these waters, it would oxidize all the pollutants, essentially cleaning the water on its way to St. Louis.
Right.
This is really true. Judge bought it, got us on board. I'm sorry if any of you were from St. Louis. It wasn't my idea, of course. And we have been cleaning up the river here lately, just like 10 or 15 years ago.